السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته يا شيخنا.
أبا عبد الرحمن، كيف الحال؟
الحمد لله يا شيخنا.
Can we go on?
نعم, we can go on, sir.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وآله. أما بعد, we have been studying the Seerah of Āishah radiyallahu anha from the book Siyar A'alām An-Nubala by Imām Adh-Dhahabi rahimahullah. We have depended on the print of Mu'assasatul Risala, which has the tahqiq of Shaykh Ibrāhīm Abdur-Raūf with the forward and original pre-book writing by Dr. Bashar Awad Maruf. Well, this book in the print of Mu'assasatul Risala occurs in 28 volumes, and we are reading from the second volume. We started the Seerah of Āishah from page 135. In the last class, we were upon the 10 things Imām Adh-Dhahabi rahimahullah mentioned. 10 things that symbolizes the Prophet's compassion and love for Āishah alayhi salatu wassalam wa radiyallahu anha. There are 10 things. Apart from other things, he made those 10 things follow themselves one after the other, showing the Prophet's compassion and love alayhi salatu wassalam for Mu'mineen Āishah Siddiqa bintu Siddiq radiyallahu anha. In the last class, we spoke about the 9th and the 10th of them. The 9th of them was that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, our mother Āishah said, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يعطيني العظمة. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will give me an azm, a bone, a piece of bone. In some riwayat it says يعطيني al-arq. He will give me arq. The arq is a bone with some flesh connected to it. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will give it to her. فَأَتَعَرَّقُهُ. I will be struggling to bite off the flesh from that bone that remained. ثُمَّ يَأْخُذُهُ. Then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will take it back from me. فَيُدِيرُهُ حَتَّى يَضْعَفَهُ عَلَى مَوْضِعِ فَمِّهِ. He will begin to turn that piece of bone and some flesh attached to it. He begins to turn it حتى until يَضْعَفَهُ عَلى مَوْضِعِ فَمِّهِ, until he will place his mouth in the place where I had placed my mouth. I hope we get the story. The Prophet would like to bite from where our mother Āishah had bitten, radiyallahu anha. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he had that kind of a time with his wife, despite his being a Rasul, despite his being in charge of the entirety of the Ummah at the time. He still had this kind of a time with family, to the extent that sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he would give his wife a piece of meat with some bones, and then after she bites, he wants to bite from the same place that she had bitten. She said, radiyallahu anha, in other reports of this hadith, وَيُعْطِينِي الْإِنَاءَ. The Prophet would give me a bowl of water. فَأَشْرِبُ ثُمَّ يَأْخُذُهُ. So I will drink from that bowl of water. ثُمَّ يَأْخُذُهُ. Then the Prophet will take it back from me. فَيَضَعُ فَاهُ عَلَى مَوْضِعِ فَيْهِ. فَيَضَعُ فَاهُ عَلى مَوْضِعِ فِيهِ. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, يَضَعُ فَاهُ. He will place his mouth ala mawdi'i fiyya, the same place where I had placed my mouth to drink water. Some of us are we feel so irritating about our wives. We can't even drink from the same cup that they drink. To say, to drink from the same spot they had placed their mouths to drink. Some of us, even the women, we feel so estranged from our husbands. We don't even want to eat from the same plate with them. Not to say bite the same place that they bite. This was from the Prophet's sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's compassion and love for Āishah radiallahu anha. The 10th thing we mentioned was the story between Āishah and Hafsa radiallahu anha. That story, Imām Adh-Dhahabi rahimahullah, in this print by Mu'assasatul Risala that we read, we depend on and show on the screen. It occurs between page 175 and 176. Imām Adh-Dhahabi stated 10 of his teachers from whom he took the narration. Imām Adh-Dhahabi mentioned by name 10 of his teachers from whom he took that report, rahimahumullah. And he mentioned the 10, the person from whom each of them variously took the report from. 10 of his scholars, he took narrations from them, and all the 10 reported that hadith from a single person, that was Al-Husayn ibn Mubarak, and then mentioned that isnad until he got to Al-Imam Abu Abdullah Al-Firabri, the student of Al-Imam Al-Bukhari, who took the original handwritten copy manuscripts of Sahih Al-Bukhari from Al-Imam Al-Bukhari. The isnad goes back to him. He is called Abu Abdullah Al-Firabri, Muhammad ibn Yusuf Al-Firabri, Muhammad ibn Firabri. He learned Sahih Al-Bukhari A to Z 2 times from Al-Imam Al-Bukhari. He was the last person to depart Al-Bukhari. He received the manuscripts of Al-Bukhari from him, rahimahullah. Why are we talking about this? We are talking about the scholars of Hadith. Imām Adh-Dhahabi, here he was telling us how that narration got to him from Āishah. The scholars of Hadith value asanid so much because the isnad will verify that narration, whether that narration is valid or invalid. So your means to verify is like the way doctors verify lab tests. How do doctors take laboratory tests if someone is clinically diagnosed for cancer? What will doctors do? They want to make other laboratory tests to verify the tests that they had done in the clinic. Even the geologists, if you go to the field, you have field reports, you have field conclusions. You still come to the lab, you want to study your rock samples to verify your conclusions. This is how valuable as isnad, the chain of reports. This is how valuable it is to the scholars of hadith. It is the way the lawyers too. They want you to mention the appropriate sections of the law that prove your point. For them, it is part of it. The point is almost useless when you cannot establish the appropriate sections of the law that will show validity for the point. You want to prove a point. There are sections of the law that proves that point. What is the value in just stating the point without mentioning the proof for the point? So you will actually be acting in full as a lawyer when you establish your point and then you cite the appropriate sections of the law and perhaps similar cases, similar judgments to verify and validate the points, the notion that you push in a law court. This same way as I protected from my Shaykh. My Shaykh reported from his Shaykh, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. This is what will tell us that. I hope that this matter is clear. And Imām Adh-Dhahabi mentioned 10 of his teachers, and then from whom those 10 reported, then from who, until it got to Muhammad ibn Yusuf al-Firabri, who was reporting from Al-Imam al-Bukhari, and al-Bukhari was reporting from Abu Nu'aym al-Fadl ibn Dukayn, who was reporting from Abdul Wahid ibn Ayman, who said, Haddathani ibn Abi Mulaika, Abdullah ibn Ubaidillah, who was reporting from Al-Qasim. We know who Al-Qasim was. Al-Qasim is the son of Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr al-Siddiq, Abu Muhammad. I repeat this. His son was who? Qasim. This Qasim grew up with Āishah, inside the house of Āishah. Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr al-Siddiq is the one who reported this narration from Āishah, radiyallahu anha, who said that أن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم إذا خرج أقرأ بين نسائه. Whenever the Prophet went out, he casted lots amongst his wives. فطارت القرعة لعائشة وحفصة. So the Qur'an, the lots that were casted came out in the favor of who? Āishah. And who? Hafsa. رضي الله عنهما. Āishah said, فكان إذا خرج سهم غيري عرف فيه الكراهية. When the lots favored anybody apart from Āishah. This is evidence that it was not on every trip that Āishah went with the Prophet. Sometimes the lots that will be casted will not favor Āishah. Let us note it. Āishah radiallahu anha did not travel with the Prophet on every journey. Look somehow. عرف على وجهه الكراهية. You would see on his face a countenance that showed that he was not pleased, radiallahu alayhi salatu wasalam. So وكان إذا كان بالليل, during that journey that Āishah and Hafsa went with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, صار مع عائشة. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would go to Aisha's right. He will go out the journey, how it goes discussing with his wife. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So one day, قالت حفصة, during one of the journeys in the night, قالت حفصة, Hafsa radiallahu anha came to Aisha. ألا تركبين الليلة بعيري وأركب بئرك تنظرين وأنظر ألا تركبين الليلة بعيري. Oh Aisha, would you not come and Abu Abdurrahman. Abu Abdurrahman. What was the last thing you heard me say?
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Abu Amir, how are you?
Alhamdulillah. The last thing he said was when Hafsa was telling Āishah radiallahu anha to come to her.
Okay. Hafsa radiallahu anha going to you. You couldn't encourage Āishah to ride on a camel. You would ride on Āishah. And that time you will be present of the journey. What I'm going to see on my calendar when I also ride your camel. But don't forget how Sarah A'alām was a bit older than Āishah. So she knew the women's way much more than Hafsa, much more than Āishah. Hafsa radiallahu anha was more experienced, was older than Āishah. So she suggested to Āishah. She also wanted to have a feel of the Prophet's gist with Āishah the night. Radiallahu anha. So Āishah said, Bala, yes, that's nice, good idea. She said, so I climbed Hafsa's camel, and Hafsa came to climb and travel on my camel. فجاء النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى جمل عائشة رضي الله عنها. So the Prophet, as he came to the camel of Āishah, well, don't forget, that camel was having who on it? It was having Hafsa. وعليه حفصة فسلم عليها. The Prophet came وعليه حفصة. The camel was having Hafsa on it. فسلم عليها. He made the taslim to her. ثم سار on journey حتى until he got to the place where نزل يتوقع قدرته. But as for Āishah radiallahu anha, افتقدته Āishah. افتقدت الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام. Because during the night of the journeys, she was used to the Prophet talking to her when she was on her camel. But she missed that journey. It's like saying she really, really missed the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فلما نزل, when he got to the place where he stopped at the night from Jannat Rijlayha Bayn al-Izhir wa Tabuk. Āishah being uncomfortable with her in the middle of al-Izhir. The tree is a kind of a plant, and this plant usually have some things hiding by plants. And she was saying, oh Allah, salli or hide it and oh Allah, let sallit alayh and aqrab, let a scorpion or hayyatan or a snake taldagun, let them, any one of them bite me. Sallit. I mean, she was saying, what, like an expression to say, hit myself a nail on the head, or I have hurt myself, because she had missed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the night when the Prophet would usually come to her to discuss with her, what is this that I have done? Is it possible that she said, radiyallahu anha, wa Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam yanzuru wa la astati'u an aqula lahu shay'an. I will be there, be looking at the Prophet afar, and I will not be able to talk to him, because she was used to talking to the Prophet, discussing with him in the night. But on that night, she rode on the camel of Hafsa. And then she missed that discussion with the Prophet. This was the last narration we read in the last class. And then Al-Imām Adh-Dhahabi went on to say that this hadith, أخرجه مسلم, Al-Imam Muslim reported it in his Sahih. And Ishaq, he reported it from Ishaq ibn Ibrahim al-Hanbali, Ishaq ibn Ibrahim ibn Rawiya, and Abi Nu'aym, who reported it from Abu Nu'aym. If you come back up on the fourth line of that page 176, you would notice that Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi rahimahullah cited that isnad up to Al-Imam al-Bukhari, who was reporting it from Abu Nu'aym. Here, Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi is telling us that Al-Imam Muslim reported it from Ishaq, who reported it from Abu Nu'aym. So he said, فَوَقَعَ لَنَا بَدَلًا عَالِيًا. What this means for us is وَقَعَ لَنَا بَدَلًا. What does badal mean amongst the scholars of hadith? Amongst the scholars of language, it has a meaning. Badal. Badal is when an expression or a word is used in place of another in An-Nahu. It also occurs in As-Sarf. If I want to go there now, it will take the time. But let's come back to it in the science of hadith, because Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi has, rahimahullah, mentioned it. Badal. Badal amongst the scholars of hadith occurs such that. Now, for example, Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi reported it with his own isnad from his own shuyukh up to Al-Bukhari and up to Abu Nu'aym. If you go to Sahih Muslim, Al-Imam Muslim reported it from his own shaykh, two of them, Ishaq ibn Ibrahim, who was reporting it from Abu Nu'aym. So you see, the isnad of Zahabi comes to Abu Nu'aym. The isnad of Muslim also comes to Abu Nu'aym. So it's as if here now Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi is reporting it just as Al-Imam Muslim reported. And between Muslim, rahimahullah, and Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi, we have about 300 to 400 years between the two of them. Between Muslim and Adh-Dhahabi, we have 400 years. And here is Adh-Dhahabi reporting the hadith from another chain of reports, different from that you have in Sahih Muslim, and ending up with the Shaykh of Imam Muslim. Imam Muslim's Shaykh was Ishaq ibn Ibrahim, who was reporting from who? Abu Nu'aym. Imam Adh-Dhahabi also got an isnad that ends with who? Abu Nu'aym. So it's as if he has replaced Al-Imam Muslim in what he has reported. So it is called Badal. And Shaykh Shu'aib al-Arnaut, he mentioned this point when he said, هو أن يروي المحدث حديثا موجودا في أحد الكتب بإسناد لنفسه فيصل في إسناده إلى شيخ المصنف. I hope that is clear. You see, Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi arrived at Abu Nu'aym without mentioning Imam Muslim. Imam Muslim recorded it from Ishaq, who recorded it from who? Abu Nu'aym. As for Al-Dhahabi, he used the isnad which got to who? Al-Bukhari, and Al-Bukhari was also reported from who? Abu Nu'aym. So it's as if Al-Dhahabi replaced the isnad of Muslim in Sahih Muslim. The scholars of hadith, isnad is very valuable to them. Like I said, the way doctors take laboratory tests, because the laboratory tests will help them determine and conclude depending on their clinical verifications. What is it exactly they want to treat in the patient? If they even have some sort of conclusions in the clinic, they will still insist on laboratory tests. The tests that verify the authenticity of a hadith. That is the validity of the isnad. So the scholars of hadith, when they tell you about a hadith, they also like to discuss the isnad of the hadith. So it's like talking about the laboratory tests that led to what the conclusions that they have gotten. So sometimes the tests too will be interesting to say this is how the test went. Like the lawyers will say the points of law, the evidences that verify the claims that they desire to affirm. So all of these also occur in the science of hadith. For them, it is the silsila to rijal, the chains of men from one stage to the other that led to that matin, that narration, that makes them understand, yes, I have a sound report with me that I want to tell you about. So the narration between Āishah and Hafsa, and how Hafsa missed, and how Āishah missed that night's discussion with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's a report that was reported by Imām Al-Bukhari. It was also reported by who? Imām Muslim. Imām Adh-Dhahabi got that report from Imām Al-Bukhari's isnad up to the same Shaykh from Imām Muslim in his Sahih. Further in the book, Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, Ziyad ibn Ayyub, we are proceeding now. He said, Ziyad ibn Ayyub, حدثنا مصعب ibn Salam, حدثنا محمد ibn السوق عن عاصم ibn كليب عن أبيه قال انتهينا إلى علي رضي الله عنه فذكر عائشة فقال خليلة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Ziyad ibn Ayyub reported from his Shaykh Mus'ab ibn Salam, who reported from Muhammad ibn Suqa and Asim ibn Kulayb. This report comes from Asim ibn Kulayb. Asim ibn Kulayb was a well-known scholar of hadith. He used to be called Waliyullah. Asim ibn Kulayb kana fadilan abidan. He was a very honorable person, full of worship. The people used to refer to him as what? Waliyullah. You can imagine in the time of the Tabi'un, if they would refer to a person as Waliyullah, how worshipful will that person be? Definitely. The person will be very worshipful. So Asim ibn Kulayb reported it from his father. His father was Abu Asim Kulayb ibn Shihab. Asim ibn Kulayb reported from his father Kulayb ibn Shihab, who said, Intahayna ila aliyin radiyallahu anhu. We came to meet Aliyu radiyallahu anhu. I think I can mention it at this stage. You can see a tabi'i saying radiyallahu anhu. Sometimes we may be asked, what is the proof that when we say a companion's name, we should say radiyallahu anhu? What is the proof? What is the proof that if you mention the name of a companion, we should say radiyallahu anhu? One of them is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them and said radiyallahu anhum. Allah mentioned the companions in the Quran, and He said about them that what? Radiyallahu anhu. Allah mentioned them in Surah At-Tawbah. السابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار. Can you hear me, إخوة?
نعم شيخنا.
You heard the verse that I read from Surah At-Tawbah that shows that when we mention the companions, we should say, we should make at-taraddi alayhim. So we should say radiyallahu anhum. So from the reasons we also say radiyallahu anhum, and Ashab al-Rasul radiyallahu anhum is that it was the Jara alayhi amalus salaf. Jara alayhi amalus salaf. The Tabi'un, when they mention the Sahaba, they say radiyallahu anhum. The Tabi'un, like Kulayb ibn Shihab, he said, Intahayna ila Ali. We came to visit Ali ibn Abi Talib. He now said, radiyallahu anhu. So when a Tabi'i mentions a companion, what do they say? Radiyallahu anhu. Where did they pick it from? They picked it from the Quran. So like following the Tabi'un, when we mention the companions too, and acting upon the verse of the Quran that says radiyallahu anhum, that's in Surah At-Tawbah, we also say radiyallahu anhum. We should know the evidences for the things that we do, especially those things that we do regularly. We must know what are the evidences that establish them. So Kulayb ibn Shihab said, Intahayna ila Ali radiyallahu anhu fadhakara Āishah. We came to Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu fadhakara Āishah radiyallahu anha. And Āishah radiyallahu anha, Ali ibn Abi Talib mentioned her. When Ali ibn Abi Talib mentioned Āishah, he now said, Khalilatu Rasulillah. What does Khalila mean? Khalila means much more than Habiba. If you say Habiba, as a beloved, someone that the Prophet loved, alayhi salatu wasalam. But as for Khulla, it is a deeper meaning of love, seriously loved, beloved, well loved. Khulla. The scholars say as if the love, takhallalat, the love got penetrated into the various parts in the mind, in the body of the person that they love. So that's why they say Khalil or what? Khalila, as the case may be. So Ali ibn Abi Talib referred to Āishah as what? Khalilatu Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That is the woman whose love penetrated the hearts of the Messenger alayhi salatu wa sallam. So you can see the names of Āishah. She was Siddiqa radiyallahu anha. She was Mubarakah radiyallahu. We remember our father referred to her as what? Mubarakah. She's also what? Khalila radiyallahu anha. Who referred to Āishah as Khalila? Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anhuma. Imām Adh-Dhahabi went on and said, هذا حديث حسن. This hadith of Ali ibn Abi Talib is Hasan. The meaning of a hadith that is Hasan is that it is sound. It is appropriate as evidence. It comes second to a hadith that is Sahih in terms of strength or in terms of evidencing. Both the hadith on Sahih and the hadith on Hasan, they have the same strength in terms of evidence. So he says, هذا حديث حسن ومصعب فصالح لا بأس به. As for Mus'ab in this isnad, he means Mus'ab ibn Salam. He says, فصالح. He is good enough. If the scholars of hadith refer to someone as Salih, they are not talking about righteousness. They are talking about Salihun lil ihtijaj. It's one of the lowest levels of saying that a person's narrations may be accepted. So he says he is Salih. La ba'sa bihi. He is good enough to be relied upon. La ba'sa bihi. There is no blame about that. Imām Adh-Dhahabi said that. Before him, long ago, Ibn Adi, who has the book Al-Kamil, he also said the same thing about Mus'ab. This is just going to say that this hadith is Hasan. That what? That Ali ibn Abi Talib, some of the Tabi'un came to him, and when Ali mentioned Āishah, Ali referred to Āishah radiyallahu anhuma as what? Khalilatu Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi went on and said, we are on page 177. Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi went on and said, rahimahullah, وهذا يقوله أمير المؤمنين في حق عائشة مع ما وقع بينهما رضي الله عنهما. وهذا يقوله أمير المؤمنين في حق عائشة. Look at this statement that Aisha is Khalilatu Rasulillah. Ali radiyallahu anhu Amirul Mu'minin. يقوله في حق عائشة. She is saying it with respect to Aisha. مع ما وقع بينهما. Despite the disagreement that came between Aisha and who? And Ali ibn Abi Talib. فَرَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمَا. May Allah be pleased with them both. Yes, Aisha radiyallahu anha was displeased with Ali ibn Abi Talib during Qissatul Ifk. We had read that to us, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam asked, فَقَالَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was asking Ali ibn Abi Talib about what he would advise regarding the matter. At the beginning, the very beginning. So Aisha said, وَأَمَّا Ali. Aisha, when she reported Qissatul Ifk, she said, وَأَمَّا Ali. As for Ali, فقال, he said to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, لَمْ يُدَيِّكِ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكِ. O Messenger of Allah, Allah has not restricted you now. وَنِسَاءُ سِوَاهَا كَثِيرٌ. Women different from Aisha, meaning, why are you worrying yourself about Aisha? Radiyallahu anha. وَاسْأَلِ الْجَارِيَةَ. You can ask her slave, تَصْدُقُكَ. Your slave, Aisha's slave, تَصْدُقُك, will tell you the truth. فَدَعَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ بَرِيرًا. The Prophet then invited Barira, radiyallahu anha. فَقَالَ أَيْ Barira. The Prophet now said, O Barira, هَلْ رَأَيْتِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ يَرِبُكِ. Did you see something that will cause you worry in your mind? The point here is, Ali ibn Abi Talib, radiyallahu anhu, he was saying to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, don't bring yourself worry about a woman. There are many women like Aisha. So don't let what has happened to Aisha bring you down. Just like you will advise somebody you see to be worried about a matter, you can leave this matter aside. Now, if the person about whom you are talking, saying you can leave this matter aside, hears, he will, because of his own or her own circumstance, understand it to mean that you are speaking lowly of him or lowly of her. So Aisha wasn't pleased, radiyallahu anha, with Ali radiyallahu anhu saying that Nisa'u bisluha. There are many women apart from Aisha. وَلَمْ يُدَيِّقِ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكِ. And Allah has not brought you into constriction. So Allah has not restricted this Aisha. We can leave Aisha aside. Something like that. So despite this, between Ali and Aisha, because Aisha didn't like it, and for a long time it used to show in the way she relates with Ali ibn Abi Talib. The day the Prophet died, alayhi salatu salam, the last salah that he witnessed, the Prophet was resting, alayhi salatu salam, on the shoulders of Ali and Abbas when he went into the masjid. When Abdullah ibn Abbas was reporting that narration from Aisha, Aisha said, Abbas wa rajulun. Abbas and one man. That man was Ali. But Aisha did not want to mention the name of Ali because she was still displeased with Ali over the issue of Ali's suggestion to the Prophet, Ali's statements to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam during the case of Ifk. Ali had a reason for saying what he said, but Aisha was displeased with what Ali said. So Imām Adh-Dhahabi is saying that despite these kinds of things in between the two of them, Ali ibn Abi Talib is still saying to the people, radiyallahu anhu, that A'ishah is Khalilatu Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So he said, وَهَذَا يَقُولُهُ أَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ فِي حَقِّ عَائِشَةَ مَعَ مَا وَقَعَ بَيْنَهُمَا. Despite what had happened between the two of them, Ali radiallahu anhu is still calling Aisha Khalilatu Rasulillah. There is a lesson to learn from this by us. We have a lesson to learn. Many of us, once we love people and then we have a disagreement with them, all the good things that we know of them will be denying it as if they are bad people. We have a friend. He's a learned person. He's learned, well exposed, well read regarding the Quran, well read regarding the Sunnah, well learned regarding the issues of fiqh. Then one day a disagreement happens between the two of us. Later on, if we want to talk about those persons, we'll be saying that that one that is ignorant, that one that is this, that one that is that. And we know that is not ignorant. These are our salaf now. Despite some disagreements between Ali and Aisha, Ali radiallahu anhu will still say about Aisha that Aisha is Khalilatu Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Our salaf were a people who were fair. And Allah warned us. I always say this verse, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا. Do not let some reservations you have about a group of people make you become unfair to them. You have a disagreement with me. Don't let it push you to be unfair to me. If I have a disagreement with you, I shouldn't let my disagreement with you make me become unfair to you. I told this in a lecture sometime. A scholar told me long ago, may Allah forgive him, he has passed away now. This was in 2008 or 2009. He told me about another learned person, that learned person cannot read Qaida to Al-Baghdadi that we read. You know Qaida? That book that has Alifun Ba'un Ta'un, Wazana Kataba Qara'a, and that. He said he cannot read it. And this person has a PhD in Qiyas from Qura in Makkah. Another scholar said he can't read Qaida Al-Baghdadi. So this, for the sake of Allah, we should change this attitude. It is very common. When people have disagreement with people, they criticize them and mention about them something they know that those people are free from. But because of disagreements, they speak about people, what is not in the people. They criticize them with what is absent from them. This is part of our Salafiyah. Our being upon the way of the early Muslims required that we learn these kinds of lessons from them. Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, وَهَذَا يَقُولُهُ أَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ فِي حَقِّ عَائِشَةَ مَعَ مَا وَقَعَ بَيْنَهُمَا. Aisha radiyallahu anha يَقُولُهُ أَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. أَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ Ali will still say this kind of a thing about Aisha, despite what had happened between the two of them. وَلَا رَيْبَ أَنَّ عَائِشَةَ نَدِمَتْ نَدَامَةً كلية على مسيرها إلى البصرة وحضورها يوم الجمل. And there is no doubt, لا ريب, there is no doubt أن عائشة, that our mother Aisha, ندمت ندامة كلية, she was completely regretful على مسيرها, regarding her journey إلى البصرة, to Basra, وحضورها, and her presence يوم الجمل, on the day of the battle of Jamal. وما ظنت أن الأمر يبلغ ما بلغ. She never knew that what happened at Al-Basra would ever happen and get to that stage. ما ظنت, she never thought that the matter will reach that stage that it reached. What was the matter? That was another thing between Ali ibn Abi Talib and Āishah radiallahu anha. What was it? When Uthman bin Affan was martyred by the Khawarij, they came from different parts of the Muslim world. They came from Egypt, came from Iraq, Basra, Kufa. They came from Sham. They came from Makkah. They gathered in Medina. And then they prevented Uthman bin Affan from leading Salah. This is where insurgency started mainly. So the second major incidence of insurgents in the history of Islam. The second major incidence. The first major incidence was when Zu Khuwaisira faced the Prophet. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet had, this hadith occurs in Sahih Muslim. The Prophet had distributed some booties of war. This man, Zu Khuwaisira, came to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and said that Ma hadhihi kismatun ma urida biha wajhullah. This was a division. It was not intended for the face of Allah. The Prophet was annoyed. Alayhi salatu wasalam. I have been an Amin from the heavens. So why will you not trust me on the earth? So to the first time someone was speaking face to face with the head of the Muslims was when Zu Khuwaisira directly face to face confronted the Prophet over what? Distribution of property, money. So you always see people come face to face constituted authority. It is that's their way, that's their approach, that's their methodology. That people come and they are not asking a question about Iman. It's not a question about Salah, but it's a question about distribution of money, distribution of property. So you always see leaders, especially in our own country now, the slightest opportunity, people begin to directly confront and abuse rulers in public. This was how it started in the history of Islam. The first person who confronted the Prophet, claiming that the Prophet was unfair in his distribution, the man's name was Zu Khuwaisira. The second person who was so confronted was Uthman bin Affan. He was mentioned in public that he was misappropriating the funds of zakah and all of this. So they gathered themselves and they prevented him from leading the salah. That is the first seat at home. They held him back. They held Usman back at home. They even prevented him from drinking water from the well that he bought. The Prophet bought with Uthman's money. It's a long story. I'm just trying to cut it so that I can get to the narration. So they held it, and it was during the time of Hajj, when many of the companions had traveled to Mecca for Hajj. They came to Medina to cause this evil. They held down Uthman. There was a day one of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Maimuna, was bringing water into the home of Uthman. They slapped the donkey of Maimuna and turned it back. They slapped the donkey and turned it back. These people insurgents. So these methodology of insurgency in the history of Islam, it is usually referred to as al-Kharijiyya. Al-Kharijiyya. And those who got involved in it, they were usually referred to as what? Al-Khawarij. Each of them will be referred to as what? Khariji. So that's how they are. They always come on the podiums in the masjid, criticizing government, abusing government, cursing government over what? Rice and beans and money. You know, how government distributed public property. They hardly talk about Iman. They hardly talk about Sunnah. They hardly talk about obedience to Allah. All that they are concerned about in the name of the religion and in the name of fighting for justice is that the properties are not duly divided. And Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu used to say to them The reason you are saying that is that it was not given to you and to your families. And if you go back to the history of all those who usually come out to say they are fighting governments, they are supporting public and all of this, once the government recognizes them and allots a few things to them, they keep quiet. So those who are upon this practice, it is away from the Sunnah. They are referred to as al-Sawarij. All they do is fight constituted authority over the distribution of property and money. That's all. So when Uthman bin Affan was killed and Ali radiallahu anhu came to the scene where he was martyred radiallahu anhu, and the day that Uthman bin Affan was slaughtered, he was on reciting the Quran. Uthman bin Affan recites the Quran a lot. It was said that his blood came upon a page of the Quran that said, فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ Allah will suffice for you against them. His blood covered that part of the Mus'haf that Uthman was reading. And his wife, Naila, who had come to protect him, her fingers were cut off. It's a very, very sad day in the history amongst the Muslims. The day Uthman was killed. Āishah was at Hajj. Ali quickly came back. And while he was in the room, the people in the house of Uthman, the people started to say that we have to appoint another Khalifa. And then Ali ibn Abi Talib, with the rest of the companions, went to the masjid. And the bay'ah, the oath of allegiance, was given to Ali ibn Abi Talib, the next person. And the Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, we are all agreed that in this ummah, the best of this ummah after the messenger was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, then Umar, then Uthman, then Ali ibn Abi Talib. Only few of them prefer Ali. They'll say Ali then Uthman. But even that, the preference position is that Uthman and then Ali ibn Abi Talib. Radiyallahu anhu. So while that happened, some of the companions went to meet Āishah in Mecca, and they told her what had happened in Medina about the killing of Uthman. So she radiyallahu anha began to move in the direction of Kufa. So why have people killed Āishah, killed Uthman? Let us go and search for them one after the other. Aisha's view, and she was followed in that by Zubayr ibn Awwam and Talha ibn Ubaydillah. These were eminent people amongst the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let us go behind and search for those people who killed Uthman. The bulk of them were in Kufa and Basra. So let us go to Kufa. When Ali ibn Abi Talib heard that they had headed for Kufa, he quickly sent a message to Kufa. Ali's view, radiyallahu anhu, was that yes, we will search for those who took the life of Uthman, but let us allow things to calm down. It also happened with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. When during Qissatul Ifk, the Prophet was not swift to punish those who were responsible. He wanted the matter to be clear, then we punish them. So he was calm, waiting. So the same principle Ali ibn Abi Talib was applying. These people have done what they did and gone underground. Let us allow the state to be calm. Then we can pick them out one after the other. As for Āishah, Zubayr, Talha, and those who were with them, they say no, we have to pick them out now. So they were agreed on picking out those who committed that evil against Uthman. But they were not agreed on when should it be. Āishah radiyallahu anha Zubayr ibn Awam, and Talha, and those with them were of the opinion that it should be done now. But as for Ali ibn Abi Talib, it should be done after the entire time. Let us try to stabilize the Ummah first. Then we can pick them out gradually and met the appropriate punishments to them. It was upon this. So they were going to let us go and pick them up in Kufa and Basra. So they left Mecca towards Kufa and Basra. And Ali ibn Abi Talib sent a message that no, they should not do that. Don't forget, at that time he had become the Khalifa. They should be stopped. They should not be allowed to continue on that journey. So where the forces that Ali ibn Abi Talib himself was on his way to Kufa to stop them. Let us go and stop them. He went to Medina, took some people, let us go. Āishah had left for Basra. So they left from Medina to Kufa. Let us go and stop Āishah. The two groups met. And that all of these was, the ulama said to us, the entirety of what happened between after Fajr and Zuhur. It is to be referred to as Ma'arakatul Jamal, Ghazwatul Jamal, the battle of the camel, because our mother Āishah was riding on a camel. And she was there as a symbol of, yes, when people see her, they will respect those who are with her. So Imām Adh-Dhahabi radiyallahu anha told us that this journey of Āishah onto Basra, regarding saying that they should go and pick out those who were responsible for the killing of Uthman, was something that she really regretted, because it became a means of another fitna. It was a fitna. The people who were causing evil in the Ummah presented it as if she was in opposition to Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali knew she was not in opposition to her. She knew that she was not in opposition to him. But at the Ghazwa of Al-Jamal, these people went on. They said, okay, this is what I want to do. Ali mentioned that to them. Hey, we are not going to do a battle. We will not fight. How will we fight ourselves over this matter? Don't worry, we'll settle down, we'll pick them up. And they were both agreed. Everybody should go back. So while they rested so that they could subsequently gradually go back, some of the people who were from amongst the insurgents went on to attack some of the people in the group that was coming with Āishah. So it appeared as if they were attacked from the group of Ali ibn Abi Talib. So the other people took a reprisal attack, and then all of these that we talked about was between Fajr and Zuhr. It ended like that, but it was a means of a big fitna between the people. People caused trouble amongst people. So Aisha's going out was something that she really, really regretted. Radiyallahu anha. But despite all of these, the first was ifk, the second was this case. Ali radiyallahu anhu will still refer to Aisha as what? Khalilatu Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, وَلَا عِيبَ أَنَّ عَائِشَةَ نَدِمَتْ نَدَامَةً كُلِّيَّةً. There is no doubt that Aisha radiyallahu anha regretted completely ala masiriha ila al-Basra. She regretted ever coming out, going to Basra to seek out those who had killed Uthman radiyallahu anhu, wa huduriha ala masiriha wa huduriha yawm al-Jamal, and her presence on that day when the two groups met, the group of Ali that came to stop them from going, and the group that she had come with all the way from Makkah after Hajj radiyallahu anha. She really, really regretted it. وَمَا ظَنَّتْ أَنَّ الْأَمْرَ يَبْلُغُ مَا بَلَغَ. Aisha did not know, she did not envisage that the matter will now reach the level that it reached. Al-Imam Al-Zayla'i in Nasb al-Raya, he mentioned a report from Āishah that she said to Abdullah ibn Umar, Ya Abu Abdurrahman, O Abu Abdurrahman, ما منعك أن تنهاني عن مسيري ما منعك أن تنهاني عن مسيري. What stopped you from preventing me from that journey? Why did you not stop me from going? Aisha was saying that to who? Abdullah ibn Umar. قال Ibn Umar said, رأيت رجل غلب عليك. I saw a man who was overwhelming. He overwhelmed you. Who was that? Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Because Abdullah ibn Zubayr was with them. Abdullah ibn Zubayr was with Aisha. I hope that this incident happened in the 36th year of Hijrah. Abdullah ibn Zubayr was born in the first or second year of Hijrah. The first year of Hijrah. The first year of Hijrah. So he'd be about 36 years old at the time. So he was the one insisting that they should go. So Ibn Umar said, well, when I saw that Ibn Zubayr was insisting, I left you. So he said, رَأَيْتُ رَجُلًا غَلَبَ عَلَيْكِ, referring to Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Aisha said, radiyallahu anha, Amma wallahi, I swear by Allah, لَوْ نَهَيْتَنِي مَا خَرَجْتُ لَوْ نَهَيْتَنِي مَا خَرَجْتُ. Oh Abdullah, if you had prevented me from going, I would not have come. So she really regretted coming. She thought that when people see her, everybody will say, okay, let us do what our mother has said that we should do. But when they saw her, the insurgents were using her presence as a means of evil again. And they almost caused disaffection between her and Ali. But let's see what happens. Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi said, فَعَنْ Umara ibn Umayr, from the authority of Umara ibn Umayr, عَمَّنْ سَمِعَ Āishah, or reporting on the authority of the one who heard from Aisha. This isnad is not sahih. Because Amman Sami'a Āishah is majhul, mubham. The one who heard from Aisha. Who is that person? So we don't know the person. We don't know. It's mubham. It's left unknown. So this isnad is not sahih. What we are reading now, the surah is surah of Inqita. The approach is that there is a broken chain there. But it has an authentic report. We'll come back to it, inshallah. فَعَنْ أُمَارَةَ ابن عمير عمن سمع عائشة رضي الله عنها إذا قرأت وقرن في بيوتكن بكت حتى تبل خمارها. That Aisha رضي الله عنها, whenever she read that verse, وقرن في بيوتكن, stay in your homes, she will begin to cry. Bakat hatta, she begins to cry until tabulla khimaraha, her khimar will be soaked with tears. Why? Because she went out to insist. She went out to Basra to insist that those who were responsible for the passing away of Uthman should be picked out. And the bulk of them came from Basra and Kufa. She regretted ever going out. But this narration is weak. This narration is weak. But the first is that in Qita, because it says man sami'a Aisha. The second one is that it was reported by Al-Waqidi. It's a very weak report. Down in the page 177, Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi said, قال أحمد في مسنده. Al-Imam Ahmad said in his Musnad, حدثنا يحيى القطان عن إسماعيل حدثنا قيس قال لما أقبلت عائشة فلما بلغت مياه بني عامر ليلا نبحت الكلاب فقالت أي ماء هذا؟ قالوا ماء الحوأب قالت ما أظنني إلا أنني راجعة. قال بعض من كان معها بل تقدمين فيراك المسلمون فيصلح الله ذات بينهم. قالت إن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ذات يوم كيف بإحداكن تنبح عليها كلاب حؤب. Imam Ahmad mentioned in his Musnad from Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan, one of his teachers, and Ismail, that is Ismail ibn Abi Khalid al-Bajali, who said حدثنا Qais, that is Qais ibn Abi Hazim, who said that لما أقبلت Āishah, when Āishah set out from Makkah going to Basra, فلما بلغت مياه بني عامر ليلا, when she reached the well of Banu Amir in the night, Nabahatil Kilab, some dogs began to bark. How, dogs began to bark. فقالت أيما إن هذا, which well is this? Which water point is this? قالوا ماء أوحب, ماء حوأب. So this is the well called Hawab well. قالت, she said, ما أظنني إلا أنني راجعة. I don't see myself except that I should return. قال بعض من كان معها. We come back to this story more. Some of those who were with her said, Bal, no, don't go back. تقدمين, you should proceed. فيراك المسلمين, فيراك المسلمون, so that when the Muslims see you, يصلح الله ذات بينهم, they are seeing you will be a means of calming them down, so that Allah uses it to rectify what is in between them. Qalat, she said, the reason I want to go back is that Inna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam qala dhata yawmin. One day the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, wa kayfa bi ihdakunna, directing it to his wives. How will it be with one of you, my wives? Tambuhu alayha kilabu al-hawab. The dogs of Hawab will bark on her. So she, this is what the statement, and it is coming to happen on me. So when she heard the bark, which water point is this? Ma'u awhab. I am the one. So she said, I have to go back. But say, no, you don't have to go back. When the people see you, they will, bi'idhnillah, be calmer, and then they'll go out and start picking out those who are responsible for the death of Uthman. Bi'idhnillah, will come back to this report, inshallah, in our next class. This was another situation of trial for our mother Āishah, radiyallahu anha. This time, after the death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One major lesson we all should take home here today is that even the righteous people will be tried and they will make mistakes. We'll come back to it. You are righteous. You are knowledgeable. Trials will come. You take a decision thinking about the matter from one angle. You would not look at it from another angle. And you will end up concluding that you will know that, I have made a mistake. We'll come back to this matter. It was a decision she took looking for goodness. But it ended up and appeared to her that she had erred. She wept. The scholars always talk about this. She used to weep whenever she remembers her going out from Makkah to Basra to go and meet people, pick out those who were responsible for the death of Uthman bin Affan. May Allah protect all of us. Forgive our shortcomings. Abu Amir, can we have a few questions before we call it again today?
جزاكم الله خيرا شيخنا وأحسن الله إليكم.
آمين وإياكم.
We don't have much questions. Okay, one here is reading. One here says, Assalamu alaikum, sir. Ahsan Allah ilaykum. Please, is it Khuwaysirah with sin or Khuwaizira with Zay?
It is with Sad, not sin, not with Zay, not with Zayn, not Za, not sin, Sad, Khuwaizira, Sad, Dhu Khuwaizira. Is this clear?
Naam, Jazakumullah khair. The other questions are unrelated. So, one reads, please, what is the virtue of reading Surah Al-Kahf on Fridays?
The virtue is that if you read it, you would have followed a practice that was mentioned and encouraged by one of the companions, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. He mentions it, he encourages it. The least reward you will gain is that you would have done as Abu Sa'id al-Khudri used to do. He used to encourage the people to recite Surah Al-Kahf on Fridays. That is what the least thing you will gain. There are reports that says that Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, he would mention it from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and say that it is kafara of dhunub, it is atonement for the sin from one Friday to the other. In another report it says it is nur, to be nur for you from one Friday to the other. Each of these reports are weak. Each of them are weak. Yes, Al-Imam Al-Albani in Irwa Al-Ghalil, he strengthened them and he mentioned them strong, sound, because Abu Sa'id al-Khudri would not be mentioning things like that from his personal opinion, but what appears authentic, and Allah knows best. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, he used to encourage it, radiyallahu anhu. So if you encourage the people to recite Al-Kahf on Friday, you have not heard why. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri used to encourage the people to recite Surah Al-Kahf on Fridays. But like I mentioned, the scholars are divided from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is what I am convinced of as I speak now. It is da'if as a statement from the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. But others like Al-Imam Al-Albani mentioned it, that it is sahih. The others say no, it is not. That's why I said the least you get if you read Al-Kahf on Friday, or you encourage people to read Al-Kahf on Friday, the least reward you get is that you would have followed upon something that a companion used to encourage the people to do. I hope that this is clear on this issue. آمين وإياك. Can we call it a day here, Abu Amir?
نعم شيخنا. صلوات الله عليه.
آمين وإياكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.